Hey everybody, welcome to Mammoth Interactive's YouTube channel. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this video. And remember that this channel doesn't do Patreon. Instead, we sell our digital courses down below. And every single dollar that we get from the products you buy below goes into making more content. The best way to help out this channel and Mammoth Interactive is to subscribe to Mammoth Interactive's huge library of content. Get thousands of hours and hundreds of courses for a low price down below. We have a monthly option and a yearly option. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our cryptocurrency algorithmic trading bootcamp with Python and the Coinbase API. In this lecture, we're doing an overview of the projects that you will build in this course. Starting off, we're going to learn how we can access data with the Coinbase Pro API. We'll learn how to make a public client, so we won't even need a key or a secret because we're going to create a public client. We're going to learn how we can fetch historic rates about a coin such as Bitcoin in USD. And then we'll learn how we can calculate a moving average, for example, a 5-day moving average and a simple moving average. And we'll take the data that we scrape from the API and we'll convert it into a pandas data frame, which is going to allow us to have a really fast data frame and a data frame that's open to a lot of different functions, so you can perform a lot of analysis and algorithmic trading with that data. Then, our next project, we are going to learn how we can use the Sandbox Coinbase API to fetch data. So we're going to be, this time, creating a private client, but it's going to be a Sandbox API, so it's just for testing. You won't actually be charged or making any real transactions. We are going to learn how to use the Sandbox Coinbase API. We're going to learn how we can fetch the spot price of a coin, for example, the price of Bitcoin at the current time. And as well how to fetch historical data. So you can actually get data for a whole day about a coin and get live historical data. So meaning that you can get data for every 10 seconds. All right, and finally, our third project is going to be learning how to buy and sell with the Real Coinbase API. So not a sandbox this time, but actual transactions. We're going to learn how we can create our API key and secret, and it's like the key and the password to represent your Coinbase account. And we'll learn how we can perform actual transactions with our wallet. First, we'll learn how to check our Coinbase account balance algorithmically. Then we'll learn how to buy and sell cryptocurrency algorithmically, and then how to send and receive coins algorithmically. For example, I can send coins to an account and I can request coins from an account, all with Python. And note that for this course, you will need some Python programming experience. We will include for you a section on how to code in Python if you have no prior Python experience. So be sure to watch that section if you don't know how to code in Python. Other than that, you don't need any experience. Now, you will also need to create a Coinbase account to follow along with this course if you want to actually do all the transactions that we're doing and follow along. You'll need a Coinbase account as well as a Sandbox Coinbase account. And we'll show you later on how to actually get those with the links included. You'll need a Coinbase account to actually set up your wallet. You don't need to have any coins that you've bought, but you'll need an account if you want to actually practice. You'll also need a Sandbox Coinbase account, and that is so that you can actually test out your algorithms with a Sandbox API. More on that later on. Now, as well, you will need a Coinbase API key and secret if you want to actually do real transactions. So not just Sandbox or training with a public client. If you want to actually use a private client to buy and sell coins or do anything with your actual Coinbase account, you will have to create a Coinbase API key. So to do that, just go to coinbase.com and log into your account. And then there, click on API and then create a new API key and a secret that will be created for you. So just like the password. Now, that's completely free to create that API key and the secret. So Coinbase will just generate it for you. Anyone who has a Coinbase account can create an API key. Just note that it will take 48 hours to actually activate that key. That's for your own security. So whenever you go to your Coinbase account, you go to the API section and you create a key and a secret. it will take 48 hours to activate that. So just be aware of that. So if you want to have it available, make sure to create it now. You can also create it later on in this course when we actually get to that project. That's the last project, so it's not required to start the course. First off, we're just going to learn how to use the public client, so you won't need any account. Then we'll learn the Sandbox, which will create for you an API key instantly. Then in the last project, once we actually learn how to use the real API, not the Sandbox, to do actual transactions, that is when you will need a real API key. And that is the key that takes 48 hours to activate. So just warning you ahead of time. All right, and so that is the course. I'm very excited to teach this course. It's a great, fun course. You're going to learn how you can algorithmically trade cryptocurrency, very fun, and no risk, because first we'll teach you how to do it in the Sandbox API, completely free. Then we'll show you how to use your actual account for real transactions. All right, so join me coming up in our next section, whether you want to do the Python section to learn how to code in Python, or if you already know Python, then just jump straight ahead to our first project, which is accessing data with the Coinbase Pro API using a public client. So join me in that next section. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we are going to begin our project of accessing data with the Coinbase Pro API. We're going to start by learning how we can fetch historic rates about a coin. So here I am in Google Colab. Join me at colab.research.google.com. This will allow you to code in Python online for free, no download or installation required. You can alternatively use an offline code editor, but I recommend using Google Colab to follow along. All right, the first thing we have to do is we have to install Coinbase Pro. We're going to begin by using an exclamation mark to access the console here in Colab. Then we're going to call pip install CB Pro. That is going to install Coinbase Pro into this project. You'll also have installed WebSocket client, requests, 6, and PyMongo. All right, and let's give it a moment to install that library. Okay, and you'll get this message, successfully installed CB Pro. Don't worry if it says that the following packages were previously imported. That's just because the 6 package that was pre-installed by Colab. All right, let's make a new code cell, and now we can import CB Pro and we can access it. For example, I could print out CB Pro to show you what it contains. Oh, just make sure it's CB Pro with a P, short for Coinbase Pro. All right, see, here we have a module, CB Pro, that has been imported successfully. All right, great. Now we can create a new public client from Coinbase Pro. So we'll call cbpro.public_client. Here I'm instantiating a new public client. So you can either create a public client, or you can create just a client, which would be a private client. This would be if you were using your own account to, for example, check your account balance or to buy and sell a coin. You would use a private client. We are going to do that later on in this course, but for now, we're going to start by accessing the public client. We can store the result of this in public client, and then I can print for you the results of that variable. So here you see we have a public client object. All right, there are many functions of the public client class. For example, we can get all the available products for us. For that, I'm going to call public client.getProducts. And if I run this code cell, look at that. I get this list of products available for me. Next, I can choose one of these products, and using the ID, I can get a product ticker from that ID. For example, I could search for BTC or Bitcoin. Okay, and I could use BTC USD as my ID. And then I can make a new code cell here. I'm going to grab my public client and I'm going to use its function getProductTicker. And I'm going to pass in the product ID, which is BTC USD, Bitcoin in USD. All right, and look at this. The results that we get are several properties in a dictionary. So we have the ask, the bid, the price, the size, the time, the trade ID, and the volume. That is information specifically about the Bitcoin USD product. So that I can access with product ticker. I can similarly get historic rates from a product like Bitcoin. For example, I'm going to make a new code cell here. I'm going to grab my public client and I'm going to use the function getProductHistoricRates. I'm going to pass in the ID Bitcoin USD here. The result of this is going to be some data. So I can store this in my, historic data. And then I can paste that variable and I will see the results. Okay, so here I have historic data about that product, Bitcoin USD. Let me just scroll down here and we will see that. Okay, and we can do this for any product in that products list that we returned, as long as we pass in the ID. Now let's take this list and make it more understandable by making it into a data frame. The first step to turning this data set into a data frame is going to be to import the pandas library. It's already pre-installed here in Google Colab, and then we can put that to use. So we're going to call pandas.dataframe to instantiate a new data frame, which is taking a Python list and making it into a data frame type, which is like a spreadsheet, but what it does is it allows us to have a lot more efficient of a table, and also it allows you to access a whole range of functions for data science. We have to pass in here our historic data, which is the Python list that we want to convert to a data frame type. Then we also have to pass in a columns argument. All right, so the columns represent all of the columns from our list that we want to put into the data frame. So I'm going to make a variable called coin columns. All right, the first column in the list is the date. So I'm going to make a list with the first entry as a string date. The second column here is the opening price of the coin on that day. So I'm going to call that open. Next, we have the high price of the coin on that day. So I'm going to use high. Following that, we have the low price of the coin on that day. So I'm going to use low. And then we have next the closing price of the coin on that day. So I'm going to call that column close. This last column, we don't actually need to use this, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to loop through for every row in my historic data. I'm going to delete the row that is at index 5 forward. So we have index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by calling delete row 5 colon, it means I'm deleting at the row column index 5 and later. So just column index 5. That will actually remove that column from the list. The reason being I don't want to use this column, so I'm just dropping it like that. Then for the columns argument, I'm going to pass in my coin columns. All right, awesome. And then I can save this. The result is going to be a data frame. And I can print out the data frame to show you what we get. Look at this. We get here 300 rows by 5 columns. We have the date, open, high, low, and close. And I can also get the data frame itself without the print function. And it's just going to show me the exact same information, but just formatted a little nicer. I can also call dataframe.info. Because this is a pandas data frame, I can use different functions on it, like info, which comes directly from pandas. Here I can see all the columns, the non-null count, the number of rows that are not null, and the data type of that column, as well as the memory usage. I can also call dataframe.describe. This will give me some statistical descriptions of each column, like the count, the mean or average, the standard, min, and more. I get that for each of my columns. All right, I can also call print on the dataframe.head, and that will give me the first 5 entries. With a pandas data frame, there are many different functions you can use. For example, you could even convert it to a CSV file if you wanted to with the function toCSV. And that is how we can use the Coinbase Pro API to get data about a coin. And then we can convert it to a data frame format, which allows us to perform data science, data analysis, algorithms on that data. Awesome. Okay, coming up, we are going to learn how we can calculate the simple moving average with the data that we just got. So join me in the next lecture where we will continue our project. Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In the previous lecture, we learned how we can access a public client of the Coinbase Pro API, how we can get data about a coin, for example, Bitcoin, and then convert that data to a data frame. Next up, we're going to learn how we can calculate a simple moving average. So we can calculate an average of a selected range of prices. Typically, the closing price is used for this. All right, so let's continue on in our Google Colab here. I'm going to grab my data frame and I'm going to create a new column. I'll call this my 5-day moving average. Just by referencing a column that doesn't exist, I'm going to be actually creating that column and it'll be automatically just put into my data frame. I'm going to assign the column to equal my data frame dot close. So here I'm accessing the closing column, and then I'm going to use the rolling function here to get a 5-day rolling value, and then I'll use mean to get the average. So this is the formula for grabbing a 5-day moving average. All right, and then if I print out my data frame, I will see my results. Look at this. Now I have a 5-day moving average. For the first 4 days here, we have no values because we can't calculate a 5-day moving average if we don't have 5 previous days or 4 previous days. Then starting at day 4 here, we have this 5-day moving average and we're using the close column to access that. We can do any number of moving average days. We could do more than 5, fewer than 5, doesn't matter. We're just doing 5 for this example. All right, and next up, I'm going to put to use another library. This is going to be known as the BTA lib library or Backtrader TA lib library. This library is part of the Backtrader family. It's a pandas-based library that is supposed to be helpful for developing and experimenting with new indicators. So let's install that library here into this Colab. I'm going to call pip install bta-lib. And then when I run this code cell, that's going to install this library because it's not pre-installed in Colab like pandas. Okay, great. You'll see here several requirements for the library are already pre-installed by Colab. Great. Once you've successfully installed BTA lib, then you can import it into your Colab here. Note that when you install it, you have to use a hyphen, but when you import it, you don't use the hyphen. All right, so let's put to use this library. All right, I am going to use the bta lib.sma to calculate simple moving average. Then I'm going to grab my data frame and I'm going to grab one of the columns like close. And the result is going to be my simple moving average. Then I can print out my results. So this BTA lib library, it has a lot of helper functions for working with backtrading. All right, and our result is we get a simple moving average object. If we want to actually get the data frame, we have to then get .df. All right, so I'm going to rerun this code cell. And once I add this .df, it means I'm getting the data frame of this object. All right, here we have 300 rows by 1 column. So we only have 1 column this time, the simple moving average. Again, for the first 5 days, we don't have any values this time. And then for the rest we do. Okay, let's say I want to print out here a period of values. So for that, I can pass in a period argument. So I'm going to grab bta lib.sma. I'll pass in my data frame.close. Then I'll pass in a period value. For example, I can do a 10-day moving average. All right, then I am going to grab the data frame property from that. And inside of my data frame, I'm going to add a new column. And I'm going to call this column my simple moving average. All right. And then I can print out my data frame with this new column added to it. And look, here are our results. We now have a 5-day moving average and we also have a simple moving average. This is actually a 10-day moving average. And those are 2 techniques for calculating a moving average. You can either do it yourself with that data frame.close, that column, then rolling.mean, or you can use a library like BTA lib to get the simple moving average for you, and you can pass in the period argument for the length of the days. All right, that's how you can calculate simple moving average. Coming up next, we're going to learn how we can fetch data with a Sandbox Coinbase API. That's coming up in the next section. So we're going to be able to get a spot price of a coin as well as fetching real-time and historical data. So join me in our next section where we will work on that. Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we are starting a new project where we're going to learn how to work with the Sandbox Coinbase API. So it is a Sandbox API, meaning you won't be charged for any transactions or fetching of data because we're just using a Sandbox API for Coinbase. Coming up later in the course, we're going to use the actual API, which means that you can be charged for transactions and for fetching data, but the Sandbox API is completely free. So just visit this website, public.sandbox.pro.coinbase.api/profile/API. So just the URL is where you can sign up to create an account, and once you've created an account, you can then go to your profile and then go to API, and there you can create an API key, and it's completely free. You will get the API key and also the API secret, which you'll need both of them in order to access the Sandbox API. All right, so let's get started. First, we have to visit Google Colab here, and we have to create a new collab. And inside of this project, we're going to call pip install Coinbase. So we have to install Coinbase in order to access its API. Let's run this code cell. So previously, in the last section, we installed Coinbase Pro, but this time we're just using Coinbase. All right, so here we go. We're collecting Coinbase, and then you'll get this message, successfully installed Coinbase. Now that we have installed it, we can import it. I'm going to specifically import from coinbase.wallet.client. So we already have Coinbase imported once we install it. Now we can just use different submodules of it. For example, I want to access my wallet and the client part of my wallet. And from there, I'm going to import the client class. The reason I'm importing the client class is because I am going to create a new client at my API Sandbox key and my Sandbox API secret. So this will allow me to create a private client. In the last project, in the last section, we learned how to use the public client. So we actually didn't need an API key or an API secret, which is like the password. Instead, we just use the public client, but this time we're looking at how we can use the Sandbox API with a personal client, so just your personal account. So we're going to instantiate a new client. Here we're going to pass in a Coinbase API key and a Coinbase API secret, these two arguments. So these two I've actually declared earlier in the collab, and these are two variables. So one is a Coinbase API key, one is a Coinbase API secret. Make sure that you create these variables and that you instantiate them with your key and secret. If you want to get a key and secret, again, you have to go to Coinbase Pro, the Sandbox, which I've included for you in this link, public.sandbox.pro.coinbase.com. So there, if you visit that site, you can then sign up with your Coinbase account and you'll be able to access a Sandbox API. So it'll be free for you to make transactions, and it will just be for testing your algorithms. The Sandbox API doesn't actually do any real trades. It's just for testing. So make sure you sign up and you get your API key and your API secret, and that you create those two variables. Otherwise, this instantiation won't work because you won't have these two variables declared. All right, and I'm just going to maybe put those back in there just to remind you to indeed declare these. Declare custom. So these must be your custom API key and API secret. All right, and this is going to be a client, so you can just store that in a variable called client. Just like that, we are going to be accessing ourselves with our API key and our API secret. So I can print out here client. I do have to comment out this key and secret, then I can run the code cell. Okay, and we have a new client object. From this client object, I can get a whole range of functions. Starting off, let's learn how we can get the spot price. The spot price is the current price in the marketplace of a given asset, like a coin, like Bitcoin. So I can grab my client and use the function getSpotPrice. Again, there are many different functions. We're going to be exploring lots of them in this course. You can also look in the documentation for Coinbase API if you're interested in looking at all of the functions. So getSpotPrice, I have to pass in here my currency pair. Let's choose one of the coins, like for example, Bitcoin USD. I can also pass in a date. For example, I could pass in 2021 0301. And the result of this is going to be a price. All right, and then I can print out my price and get my results. Look at this. We have the amount, which is the price. The base is Bitcoin, and the currency is USD, or American. And just like that, we can get the spot price of a coin. You can do this for any currency pair that you want. Just make sure this is the product ID. All right, and that is how we can access the Coinbase API, specifically just the Sandbox API to start, which is going to allow us to just test our algorithms without actually being charged or having to pay. So join me in the next lecture where we will continue our project. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're continuing our project of using the Sandbox Coinbase API. And we're continuing in the same collab, and this time we are going to learn how we can get historical data about a price of a coin, such as Bitcoin. All right, so I am going to make a new code cell, and I'm going to use my same client, but this time I'm going to use the function makeAPI So I'm going to create a new API object, and I'm going to call client.get. I'm going to pass in here version 2. I want to get the prices. Then I'm going to pass in the product ID, Bitcoin USD. And the type of data I want is historic. Then I'm also going to pass in here, after client.get, that I want an API object. Let's just make sure here, API should be in caps and the O of object. Okay, great. And that is going to create for me a new API object. In order to use the API object class, we do have to import it. So at the top of the code cell, from coinbase.wallet.model, we are going to import the API object class. Then we can run that code cell. The results are today's date as of this recording. Here we have March 2nd, 2021. And for every timestamp, we are getting the price of the coin, in this case Bitcoin, in USD at that time. And that is how we can use the API object to get historic data. All right, and that's how we can use the Sandbox Coinbase API. Join me coming up in our next section. We're going to learn how we can work with the Real Coinbase API. So this time it won't be a Sandbox, it'll be the real thing. So you will be charged if you want to actually buy and sell with your actual Coinbase account, because it'll be the real API, not just the Sandbox. So it's not just for testing, it's for actually executing your algorithms. So join me in the next section. We're going to learn how we can check our account balance and how we can buy and sell coin.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this course. If you want to watch the rest of the course, the link is down below. Not only do we get the access to this course, but you'll get access to a lot of other courses in a huge bundle, and it's on sale today. So buy before the sale ends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.